You're correct. What? That's my problem too. Council. See you have an extra eye in there. There you go. Oh, here comes Jackie. You're on. Very ready. Hey. Do you need a hand? Good evening. Hello. Good evening. Welcome to the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista regular meeting Tuesday, July 18th, 2023. It is now 5:07 and I'm calling the meeting to order. Council member Sabathia, can you please start us off in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Here.
Councilmember Morris Lopez, Councilmember Sabathia,
Here.
Mayor Jordan.
Here. Excuse the chatter outside. We are going into closed session, and if there are any public comments before we go into closed sessions on items only on the closed sessions, we will accept them now. Do we have anybody in Zoom with public comment?
If anybody in Zoom wishes to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Anyone in chambers? Thank you. None present. Okay, we are in closed session now. We'll be back at 6 p.m. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Sorry for the delay. This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of San Juan Bautista, Tuesday, July 18th. It is 6:13. City Attorney Rathi, can you please bring us out of closed session? You are, please hit the button. There
Yes,
you
I
go.
can. Thank you.
Thank you.
The council met this evening in closed session on the matter listed on the agenda, which was one item, which was a public employee performance evaluation for the position of the city manager. Council received information, held a discussion and provided direction this evening. There was no reportable action taken during the closed session this evening. That concludes my report.
Thank you. A couple of housekeeping items. We are going to hold over some items on the agenda for our next meeting. That will be 7B as in boy, July 4th, 2023 firework compliance debriefing. 9, B as in boy, accept first annual report of the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee, EDCAC, a standing committee of the City Council for business improvement, resiliency, and overall community economic development. And discussion item 10, C as in Charlie, revising Title 13 violations by repealing and replacing Article 4, noticed nuisance abatement procedures, and Article 5, emergency notice nuisance abatement procedures of Chapter 1, enforcement by adoption of ordinance entitled Alternative Public Nuisance Abatement Procedures. Having said all of that, we have a couple of proclamations. 10 who? D as in David, D as in Delta. Also item 10D, revisiting zoning code section 11-04-110 regarding regulation of large-scale retail business, formula retail or formula restaurant business, and formula visitor accommodations. Thank you. Any other housekeeping? Moving, if it's okay with the council, to move one of the wastewater discussion item B, 10B. I don't know where we can move that to. We have consultants, a lot of consultants on the line.
I would move it to after general public comment.
Do I have consensus on that? 6, between item 6 and item 7. Okay, city manager, do we have everybody present for that? That would be able to discuss it sooner?
Yes, we did.
Okay, we will be moving discussion item 10B. Discussing financing options for the city of San Juan Bautista sanitary sewer force main to the Hollister project. This is a discussion item, and we are moving it between 6 general public comment and 7 presentations. Awesome. Thank you all very much. My apologies. Okay, starting us off, we have a couple of proclamations. And because my voice is not going to last through the whole meeting. These are for the National Health Center Week, August 6th through the 12th, 2023, and Agricultural Worker Health Center Day, August 8th, 2023. Mr. Williams is present in chambers to accept these. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman and would any other council member like to, thank you, Council Member Morris Lopez to deliver these? Yep, to read them at the podium, please. Yeah, you can read it from your seat and then present it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go first. This is for the National Health Center Week of August 6th through August 12th, 2023. Whereas for over 50 years, community health centers have provided high quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and preventative health care in our nation, medically underserved communities, delivering value to and having significant impact on America's healthcare system. And whereas the county's largest primary health care network, community health centers, are healthcare home for over 30 million Americans and over 14,000 communities across the nation. And whereas community health centers are a critical element of the health system, serving rural, suburban, frontier, and urban populations, often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in their communities. And whereas community healthcare centers serve as beacons of essential resources and support in the face of disasters and pandemics, and will continue to respond quickly to care for America's most vulnerable and underserved communities. Community health centers have administered over 22 million COVID-19 tests and over 24 million vaccines to date. And whereas community health centers nationally support more than 500,000 direct and indirect jobs, including physicians, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, licensed family therapists, certified nurse midwives, and those who work as part of a multidisciplinary clinical team designed to treat the whole patient. Whereas community health centers are on the front lines of emerging healthcare crises, providing access to care for our nation's veterans, addressing the opioid epidemic, and responding to public health threats in the wake of natural disasters. And whereas this year's theme, Roadmap to a Stronger America, is to highlight the achievements and amazing work being done at the community health centers in every state and territory. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Leslie Jordan, on behalf of San Juan Bautista City Council, hereby proclaim August 6th through 12th as National Healthcare Center Week, and encourage all residents to visit their local health center and celebrate the important partnership between America's community health centers and the communities they serve. Dated July 18th, 2023. There's the person here.
Thank you very much. Mr. Williams. Sorry, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm basically here for Rosa Vivian Fernandez. And we appreciate this very much. We'd just like to announce that we also will have a food drive during that week to kind of celebrate the week, so that we'll have in conjunction with the local Rotary, we'll be having a food donation, so that we just wanted to communicate that to everybody so they can come by and let people know that that's available during that week over at our facility in Hollister. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And that's at the Health Foundation
Yeah.
parking lot?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to read the proclamation for Agricultural Worker Health Day, August the 8th of 2023. Whereas an estimated 3 to 5 billion migrant seasonal farm workers are employed in the nation's multi-billion-dollar agricultural industry, and whose back-breaking labor makes possible the production and harvest of many crops. Thanks go to those who have worked at the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas agricultural ranks among the most dangerous occupations, subjecting workers to health and occupational risk, yet migrant and seasonal farm workers, by virtue of their work and economically disadvantaged status, confront significant barriers to accessing doctors and needed health services. And whereas the Migrant Health Program, enacted in 1962, planted the seed that has enabled communities to establish migrant health centers, which today serve more than 1 million migrant seasonal farm workers and their families. And whereas migrant health centers have evolved into strong models of primary care practice, addressing the complex needs of a vulnerable population while demonstrating the value of outreach, patient education, linguistically and culturally competent care to promote better health and ensure healthy communities. And whereas studies have confirmed that migrant health centers deliver comprehensive, high quality, and cost-effective preventative and primary healthcare services, in addition to lifting the barriers of healthcare and reducing health disparities. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Leslie Jordan, on behalf of the San Juan Bautista City Council, do hereby proclaims the 8th of August, 2023 as Agricultural Worker Health Day in the city of San Juan Bautista, dated this 18th day of July, Mayor Leslie Q. Jordan. Anyone present?
Mr. Williams again will accept that.
Yeah, thanks for this. We just want to point out that the majority of our patients are farm workers in the community, and we've been successful in having recently a lot more new providers from Mexico that are very good at relating to the farm workers. So, you know, we have more capacity to serve the farm workers, the community now than we have for several years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for all of that the foundation is doing. The consent agenda, there are 10 items on the consent agenda. Would any members of the council wish to pull an item for a separate vote or separate discussion? Thank you. Any members from Zoom?
No hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone in chambers that wishes to pull an item on the consent agenda?
No speaker cards received.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilmember Friel, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Freeman to accept the consent agenda items. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes, thank
Motion
you.
carried.
Public hearing, a resolution for the approval of the annual levy Community Facilities District CFD number 2018-01 Copperleaf and Rancho Vista neighborhoods. City Manager.
Mayor, City Council. This is our annual report on the for CFD.
Thanks, Scott. Tell you were a firefighter, you're diving in there to the rescue. Zone 1 is our Copperleaf neighborhood and zone 2 is the Rancho Vista neighborhood. There was no increase last year, and the special assessments that pay to maintain the district's streets, sidewalks, roads, lights, and storm facilities and a lot of the public improvements there remained in Copperleaf at 487.68 and remained at 768.50 for the Rancho Vista neighborhood. We are proposing an increase this year of right around cost of living for both. We held neighborhood meetings, one at the park in Copperleaf and then one in the library with the Rancho Vista community. And we shared the status of the district with the property owners that were interested. And in zone 1, we're proposing a 5.59% increase or $22.30. And in zone 2, we're proposing a cost of living increase of 3.30, not quite as much, but it is a $25.36 increase from 768 to 793. And that's all I have to present on this. You're welcome to open the public hearing, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Public hearing is now open. Do we have any questions from council members? Councilmember Friels? Mayor Pro Tem Freeman? Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia?
I got nothing.
Thank you. Public comments, anybody from Zoom wishing to speak on this matter?
Madam Mayor, no hands raised.
Thank you very much. Anyone in chambers wishing to speak on this matter?
No speaker cards received.
Thank you. Back to council comments. None, I'm guessing, because there weren't any on public hearing. May I have a motion to approve the resolution for the annual levy communities facility district CFD number 2018-01 Copperleaf and Rancho Vista neighborhoods? Sorry, closing public comments. Thank you.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Freeman, seconded by Councilmember Sabathia. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Public comment. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per speakers on items that are not on the agenda. If anyone wishes to address the council again on any items not on the agenda and that are under the city's subject matter jurisdiction, please come forward. Again, comments are limited to 3 minutes on items that are not on the agenda, and the council does not necessarily have to respond, neither does the city manager. These are comments only. Thank you. Do we have anybody on Zoom who wishes to speak?
Seeing no hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have anybody in chambers that would like to speak?
Yes, we have 4 speaker cards. Darlene Boyd.
Thank you. Welcome. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give this to the clerk for the record. This has to do with creating or restoring trust in city government. As John Lewis, one of my favorite activists, late John Lewis said, when you see something is not right, not fair, not just, you have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to do something. And Fannie Lou Hammer, who also stated, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I would like to know how you do expect volunteers to continue to work in this toxic environment, which is not considerate, not consistent, and not predictable. What mess will the city staff and volunteers next need to clean up, or who will needlessly suffer potential major consequences after another one or more of executive functioning failures to control unethical impulses? It is our sincere hope that you will do your due diligence as a city council in the face of these obvious behavioral, public and personal interest practices that have been noted here. We, the citizens and volunteers, are very tired of dealing with the dysfunction of Ms. Jordan's untrustworthy decisions and behavior, which is dividing our city into warring factions. Instead of collaborative discussions to move us forward, this nonsense needs to stop, especially if you want to retain and improve any progress of creating the city that is outlined according to our strategic plans, to which all of us are accountable. I am advocating for our city, including its government, staff, business, and citizens, to restore trust. I am charging the city council to responsibly take a deep dive into its code of ethics and consequentially address the behavioral choices of Ms. Jordan or anyone who intentionally and chronically violates these codes. Without meaningful consequences, these behaviors will only escalate. As it is, she has already stepped into the realm of criminal tort called malicious prosecution, or at least malicious use of process. She has most recently selectively been involved in subjecting Ms. Callum and myself to becoming her latest victims of toxic oversight by intentionally attempting a criminal tort of malicious persecution upon our volunteer efforts to obtain a grant, which we knew the city needed to approve. There was no pre-discussion with either of us or her own investigation into whether we had allegedly signed the city manager's name to submit this application. Instead, she was involved in contacting the sheriff to investigate this possibility, which is also an abuse of process using taxpayer resources. On top of that, the sheriff was quite surprised and informed us of overreaching unethical decisions of informed us that KSBW TV was notified of this alleged incident. Had the sheriff Taylor and our city manager not stepped in to address these overreaching unethical decisions of toxic injustice, this sort of media exposure could possibly have compromised a citizen's employment
Thank you. Your
and
time is
destroyed
up.
volunteer
you
citizens'
very much.
reputations, not to mention
We
a possible
appreciate your
lawsuit to the
comments.
city
Have a,
for allowing this.
thank you.
Once again, this has been 3 months.
Order, yes, it has. Thank
No.
you very much for your
Once again,
comments.
volunteers are targeted and staff's resources,
Order,
their time and
thank you
energy
very
had to
much
be
for your
engaged to clear
comments.
up
Please
these
cease and
issues.
desist. Thank you.
No, I will
Please
not
sit
cease
down.
and desist. According
Please
to
mute
the
her.
code of
Can we
ethics,
please mute this?
there is number 18, the chairs of
City
boards and
attorney.
commissions have the additional responsibility to
Thank you. I'm
intervene
calling for a recess for
when
5
actions
minutes.
of
Thank you
members
very
that appear
much.
to be in violation of the code of ethics
Sorry. Wow, yeah, the last two were muted, so if you can do a really concise 1 minute. Both of you, really quick, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. You gotta think about yours.
Sorry for that, everyone. Chambers was muted. We apologize for that. We're gonna do a really quick recap of both.
Bella Marquez, the local resident and business owner, here to announce San Juan Day on August 13th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You're gonna want to be in San Juan on San Juan Day, August 13th, 10 a.m. to 4 for the good times. Thank you.
Wait. One more time about the not street closure.
Oh, the street's not closed this year. We decided to try something new and have multiple pop-up markets at local businesses, parking lots, and patios, including, this is getting long, including Vertigo, Coffee, Power, 18th Barrel, Hawks Peak Plaza, and lots of others. There will be promotion on Instagram and Facebook and flyers all around town. So come check us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will try to cut this down as much as possible. I'm with San Benito County Integrated Waste Management. I'd first want to talk about one of our programs right now funded by a state grant, which is LED light distribution to residents in the county. A new California bill will then ban the sale of screw-in fluorescent light bulbs by 2024. So we're helping residents make the switch, as LED lights last 2 to 3 times longer and do not contain mercury. As well as we have residential fluorescents can be disposed properly at monthly household hazardous waste at John Smith landfill, which occurs every 3rd Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Our next event will be on August 19th. To see acceptable materials, you can visit our website at www.cosb.us/HHW. Another reminder that Recology offers residents and living in a single family home curbside bulky item pickup twice a year at no cost. Residents can call 831-636-7500 to schedule their pickup and confirm that their bulky item is acceptable. We will be also conducting a composting workshop on July 29th from 9:30 to 12 p.m. at the Epicenter in Hollister, which will have composting 101 and sheet mulching techniques fundamentals. There are flyers all around town at various certified green businesses and city facilities with information on how to RSVP. We will also be at Hollister's Farmers Market on August 9th, educating residents about safe sharps and medical disposal, with offering residents a free mail-back sharp container program to properly dispose of any unwanted sharps, easily able to send back with a prepaid label, and can order another container when needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Can I get a show of hands on Zoom for those of you that can hear? I'm still receiving notices. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. You can lower them all. Thanks. I did. Thank you all very much. I keep getting text messages. Thank you. Do we have anybody else in chambers for public comment?
Yes, Michael Ponce.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I just got a quick question and comment. Will the sewer force main bid be awarded tonight? And if not, why not? This project seems to keep dragging on and on and on. That's just my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can speak to that when we talk about the finance line there.
Perfect. Thank you. We'll have an answer for you throughout, Michael. Thank you. Any other public comment?
None, Mayor.
On Zoom. Thank you all who are leaving for attending. We have a hand raised. You want to have her unmute herself?
Ms. Ponzi, if you want to make a
Oh.
public comment, you're welcome to unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you very much. I'm not always sure if you see my hand or not, but it's just very frustrating. And I spoke to you guys about this before. The sound, and thank you for recapping on those two presentations. But something needs to be done to make sure that you guys are communicating with Zoom. The sound is always a problem. I wish you guys could rectify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to discussion item 10B as in boy. Discuss financing options for City of San Juan Bautista sanitary sewer force main to Hollister project. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. We placed this item on the agenda because we closed bids for our project to award the contract June 2nd. And as Dmitry Semenoff, our financial advisor for this project, will describe in a few slides for the council, our costs, of course, were estimated in 2021, and the price is higher than we had anticipated. So we wanted to explain how we plan to finance the project and close the funding gap and share that with the council. And then at the earliest convenience, bring the, if approved, if okay with the council, then we come forward and award the contract. Also here tonight from M&S is Paul Greenway. We have Doug Pike in the room, our city engineer, and Jerry Sanguinetti. Also available for questions regarding the project is the design team represented by Stantec, is represented by Gabe Erno. So with that, we'll ask Dmitry will share his screen. I will do that for him. And Dmitry will present the status of our finance plan for this project. There you go.
All right, thank you, Don. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Jordan, members of the council. You have the slides, I believe, in your hands as well as on the screen. It's cutting off a little bit, but we'll try to go through that. Let's go to the next slide, please. So tonight, what we would like to do is present the financing plan for how we will finance the upcoming wastewater project. Right, and so to give the overview of the project, it's basically a pipeline to convey the city's wastewater to Hollister's regional wastewater treatment plant. The project design took place over 3 years, essentially from 2020 to 2022. And the original project budget was developed in 2021 and was documented in the document called PER, Preliminary Engineering Report. And that's sort of a document that's fundamental to getting any type of federal funding aid. And that's what was used to document the financing need when we were working with the USDA to get the grant money and the loan money. So then the project specifications were approved for bidding on April 18th of this year, 2023, and bids were received on June 2nd of 2023. So the lowest bid came in significantly higher than what was originally budgeted. And over the next several slides, we will go through the strategy, how we're planning to address the funding gap. And if the strategy is acceptable to the city, to the city council, then there will be a special meeting, and Don, I believe that's scheduled for August 3rd of 2023 to award the construction contract, right? So next slide, please. Okay, so this is the snapshot of the project budget. This is after all the bids came in. This is the current situation. This is essentially the nut that we're trying to crack. It's a $21 million project. The net construction cost is about $13 million. That's 62% of the budget. Then design, engineering, environmental permits, all those soft costs related to the project are about 16%, about $3.3 million. The connection fee to the city of Hollister is $2.5 million. And then there's about $850,000 contingency, the financing costs of $633,000. environmental mitigation, $468,000, and a little bit of legal costs. So, and what I want to highlight is the next net construction cost is something that will be addressed at the special meeting when we'll be looking at the awarding the contract. The way that number is calculated, about $13 million, it includes a $4 million credit from the county towards pavement. And then there's some things that have been zeroed out. There's a conduit and some other costs that have been adjusted since then. So the number that we're showing is the actual number that the city will be responsible for. And it may be different from some of the numbers that you'll see at the special meeting, but the net number is the same. So, but overall, the project costs come up to about $21 million. All right. Next slide, please. Okay. And looking at where we were a couple of years ago when the original budget was developed, the budget was $18.6 million. And that's the funding that we were able to obtain. And now we went from $18.6 million to $21 million. So essentially a $2,400,000 budget increase, or about 13% of the costs. And the increase, when we put together the original budget, it was based a lot on the estimates. The project design, the pipeline design, based on the cost back then, they were priced out based on the comparables. We didn't have any specific bids from anybody. So a couple of years have passed. There's been a lot of changes to the material costs, inflation. I'm sure we've all heard of that. So now that we've received the actual bids for the construction, for all the construction management, for the engineering work, all those things that have happened since then, they are reflected in the new budget. So $21 million is the trued up number based on the actual documents and proposals that the city has in hand. So next slide, please. And the funding sources that we have available, and you have seen some of these before. So we have 3 grants and the USDA loan, and that I'll talk about those first. So the 3 grants are, there's a $1 million grant from the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Then the state of California gave the city $3 million towards this project. It's direct appropriation written in the state budget. And then the USDA offered a package of a grant and a loan. The grant is $4.3 million and the loan is $10.3 million. So those were the sources that we've discussed before several months back when we were getting the approvals for the interim project financing. So those were the original funding sources. Since then, now that we received the bids and we're trying to figure out how to address the budget gap, the city was able to identify a $410,000 set of funds as a part of the Surface Transportation Block Grant. And I believe that's administered by the county, that can go towards paving costs related to the project. So as the pipeline is being laid and the pavement needs to be done, those funds are available for that cost. And Mr. Reynolds, he really wanted to make sure that this line item is highlighted by directing the funds here towards this project that may limit the availability of the grant funding for other street surface projects in the city. But to make this project work, this is where some of the funding will come from as well. So altogether, these 5 funding sources add up to about $19 million. Okay, next slide, please. And now looking at what's the updated project budget, $21 million, and available funding sources, $19 million. We have a $2 million net funding shortfall. So next slide, please. And this is how we're planning to address the funding shortfall. So the $2 million, some of the projects working with the city's engineer, we're able to defer some of the projects. These are not the projects that we can remove from the scope. but we can postpone them until a later date. And that postponement will allow us to obtain additional funding and identify additional funding sources. So basically, it's two large chunks of the project. One is the removal of sludge. That's about $680,000. And then the storage pump and screen improvements that don't need to be done right away and can be done at a later date, as well as some related contingency. And there's the Build American, Buy American Act, that if we pursue additional federal funding, that may increase the cost by about $100,000. So all those things combined, $1.25 million of projects that can be postponed until we identify the funding for them. Then we have about $250,000 of additional, potentially available additional funding from the USDA. We do not have it secured, but there's been some indications that we may be able to qualify for that additional grant funding. And then finally, the city has already incurred pretty significant costs towards the project, over $1.2 million. And so some of that cost will be reimbursed to the city back from the grant funds that we've received. But about 500,000 of that has already been paid. The way things stand right now, unless we're able to identify additional funding, that will be the city's contribution, the wastewater fund contribution to the project. So that's how we're planning to address the funding gap. So if this financing plan is acceptable, the next steps would be award the construction contract on August 3rd. And then we'll start pursuing the additional $250,000 USDA funding, which is the reason why it's $250 is as long as we stay under that, we don't have to incur the BABA, the Build American, Buy American costs. So we would like to try to keep it separate. And then also start looking for other funding sources for the deferred projects. And that, again, can come either from the USDA or some other grants, as well as potentially wastewater fund itself, looking at some of the reserves and potentially the rates. So that's the financing plan. And with that, I can answer any questions, as well as, Paul can contribute, Mr. Reynolds can contribute, and I believe Gabe Arno is also available to answer any questions that pertain to engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Questions, comments, concerns from the council? Councilmember Frails?
Heard something I'd like to clarify. This BABAA, the Babel or whatever it's called. The 100,000, that's not, is that for sure that we're getting that done?
Well, okay, so BABA is, it's the new act. It's Build American, Buy American.
Yeah.
We've always had to comply with the American Steel requirement for public works projects. This expands the requirement to purchase American produced materials for projects. And talking to the contractor is because the USDA funding was applied for before BABA became the law, we're currently exempt from compliance with BABA. If we seek additional funding from the USDA in excess of the $250,000 that's identified here, that would trigger the requirement to comply with BABA. And in talking to the contractor and to Stantec, which is the project engineer, they've estimated that the cost of compliance with BABA may be an additional $100,000. So as long as we don't go for additional funding from the USDA at this time, we don't have to incur the cost. So that's why we took it out of the budget. Does that make sense?
No. Sorry, my question was, I thought this was something we were going to go for, this 100,000 from this Build America back.
No, it's a cost by delaying these projects and not getting the immediate funding for it. It's a cost that we don't have to incur. That's why we're taking it out of the budget. So it's not a contribution that we receive. It will be a cost And that cost is baked into the higher $21 million budget amount. But by delaying these projects and not having to get immediate federal funding for them, we don't have to incur the cost.
Okay, so we weren't planning on buying American steel to begin with?
No. We always had to buy American steel. This is the expanded requirements to for some American produced materials. And really, in a $17 million construction budget, $100,000 is a rounding error. This is just an allowance for some of the materials that may or may not be manufactured in America. So it's not the I think a lot of the costs from what I've been explained is more compliance related than actual materials. It's a very small fraction of the budget, but by deferring the projects, we're able to not have to incur it at this time.
Okay, I need to chew on that for a bit. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Yes, I had a question about the sludge removal. As I remember, the last time the sludge was removed from the sewer plant was summer of 2019, or could have been 18, but let's go with 19. And it was about a month-long operation. And before that, it had never been removed in the previous since 1987 when it was built. So it was well overdue. But what I'm asking is can we delay that process, that job? Because that's done by an outside vendor. It's not done by the construction team. I know the people who do it. They also do it at Hollister and several other sewer plants around here. And you can kind of schedule them when they have time and when convenient with you. So I'm wondering if we can move that back, since we're not going to give up the sewer plant, if we can time that so maybe we get some extra money, just collect fees from our users, and then we can, because that's the, other than the deferred projects, that's the biggest hunk of money on the list. And so if we can possibly defer that for 3, 4, 6 months, I don't know, maybe even a year, we could get going at least and get the project going.
Right, and that's exactly what we're proposing to do. And I'm a finance person. The engineering side of things is better explained by Paul and Gabe. But the deferral of the sludge removal, that's exactly what's being proposed to cover the funding shortfall. So that's one of the components of being able to move with the project now and then secure the funding for the sludge removal at a later date.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the same question as John, so I'm reading that all those numbers in the parentheses are projected money saved by deferring the projects. So right below that goes the storage pump and screen, which is all a little, a little over almost 2/3 of a mil. I guess my mouth's not good today. But anyway, so both those two top line items, that's $1 million right there. But my concern as a representative of my constituents and the residents, people that live here, is how is that going to affect our services? You're deferring sludge removal. You're talking about deferring the cost of a storage pump and screen. I don't know all the mechanics of that or engineering, but it sounds like it has to do with our waste management system or infrastructure. And we're trying to build a new system and pump it out. So it doesn't quite make sense to me. We're still asking our citizens to pay for those services, but yet we're going to put them on hold to build something that's not here.
So I
Can
answer-
Paul or Gabe address
Yeah,
this issue?
Gabe got his hand up. Or there's Paul is in the panel, so Paul, you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, members of the council, and Madam Mayor, this is Paul Greenway, supporting the city. And these are important elements to the project. They were designed as part of the project. We certainly, the designer identified them as needed. When he reviewed the existing facilities, he felt that they were needed and they were included in the original plans and specifications for the project. So it's definitely something that we were very hopeful to address with the bid. And this action that's being taken place today is not necessarily taking away those items. We're simply putting a pause on implementing them until the funding, as Dimitri is laying out, will be pursued for those separate from the funding sources that are identified here in this financing plan. So they are needed. They are valuable parts of the system. The design engineer has identified these as items that could be delayed to keep the project moving, because if we stop the project at this point and say, oh, we have to go find more financing before we award the contract, that's not in the city's best interest based on the timing and the cost of things that keep going up. You know, if we have to wait a year and rebid this project, our costs will be going up. So we definitely are looking forward to a solution where we can move this ahead with the contractor who submitted a bid. We've reviewed his bid. We think his bid is reasonable. And so that's why August 3rd, we would come back to City Council if you accept it, and we would do everything except these items, and then the city would pursue additional funding to try to make sure these are also included in that later on. So I hope that answered the question. Happy to take any other questions.
If I could speak.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So on this list, just for clarification, below BABA adjustment, there could be a set of double lines, because the total deferred projects are these four things added up to $1.2 million, just so that we understand Dimitri's chart. And then the 1.264 gets added to the 250, and that leaves a balance. So 2 million leaves the balance of 502. So I just wanted to be clear on that. It's just the four projects. And Councilmember Morris Lopez, the sludge removal is part of decommissioning the old plant. So when we open our pipeline to Hollister, the sludge will be up there, and it's actually less expensive to move when it's dry, because we get charged by the pound. So that's nothing that's going to interrupt the services to the residents or in any way disrupt things for them. That occurs after the project is done. So just wanted to make sure you understood that.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
All the deferrals and things make sense to me. How you guys are planning and still, in my mind, attacking this, I appreciate. My questions and concerns are mostly around, I saw several line items in previous slides related to contingencies and overages, and I know having awarded several bids and designed a lot of systems myself, how are we planning to attack change orders and increases and things like that? Is there a do not exceed it included in the bid?
Yeah, I can let Paul speak to that as our.
Yes, thank you. Yes, there is a bid amount that is the responsive bid amount, and then the city, as part of the action on the 3rd, would allocate a contingency amount that would only be authorized if the city manager agreed or the city council agreed to expend those funds. So in Dimitri's slide, Dimitri, you could, I believe you have it on one of your slides here that shows an allocation for contingency. That amount, we will.
That would be slide 2.
Yeah.
Right there. Yep,
Yeah,
slide 3.
that amount will, that 847,197, which is sort of the middle of the slide here, that would be accessed should a change order be facilitated, something that was unforeseen as part of the project. something happened, then the additional 857,000 would be accessed as a change order item.
What's our process for approving change orders?
So Paul, and city attorney can speak to this, but the purchasing code has a limit, and if it's over a certain percentage, then the city manager needs to defer to council for approval, right? So if we had a huge change order, it'd have to come back to the council for approval. But is there a threshold? I thought it was like a certain value of the contract percentage.
Well, I think you're speaking to cardinal change, and that wouldn't be involved at this point, at least as I understand it. So no, there's no threshold for change orders in that context. They would just be, contingencies that were required by the project, emergent type issues, either that would add or in some cases deduct amounts from the bid amount.
So typically with an award of a contract, there is the award amount, which is what the low bidder submitted, and then city council would allocate a contingency, and that amount will be the $847,000. And then it could either be the city manager's authority to execute change orders as part of that process, and then certain change orders size is exceeding a certain amount, then city council certainly might ask for that to come back to chambers.
Thank you. I think my conclusion there is that we need some sort of threshold amount for approval on change orders.
Thank you. And that's a not to exceed amount, correct?
Right.
The 800. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. With obtaining the USDA loan, they were very specific on monies that we sought and contract amounts. I just want to make sure that the USDA is fully on board with the overage.
Yeah, Dimitri can speak to that.
Right. So the next step after this conversation is actually presenting this information to the USDA. And the goal was to come up with a plan, right? We were looking at what's the gap and how do we cover that gap, right? And then the next step will be going to the USDA and asking for the additional support, whether it's only $250,000 or if additional grant funding may be available from them, to see if we can get some funding for the gap for the deferred projects also. That will be the next step. Actually tonight, after this meeting is over, if there is a direction and general sign off from the city council on this financing plan, we will be forwarding this documentation to the USDA to start the conversation on the additional funding.
Thank you. Right, it's just a discussion item. Yes, thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom?
Madam Mayor, no hands raised, but we do have public comment in chambers.
Thank you.
Mr. Ponce?
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I kind of had a feeling this was gonna happen. And we probably all kind of had the feeling this was gonna happen as prices are increasing. But it sounds like we're in a jam here because there's a lot of ifs.
Can you please make sure that you're speaking into the microphone?
Sure.
Thank
Can we-
you.
Can we go back to the second slide to back, I believe? So with this plan, maybe one more back. No, the one that Wait. I want, where it shows the city contribution of 502,000.
One more.
There you go. Okay. So on that plan right there, are a lot of ifs. The first one, the sludge removal.
You might have to pick the microphone up and take it with you.
Sorry. I'm not used to this.
There you go.
The first one is sludge removal. My first concern, if we leave the sludge there, are we gonna have a problem with smell? My second concern is that gonna affect our emergency storage volume? And then as Councilman Friels was trying to understand the BUBBA adjustments, I feel that our hands are tied if we're seeking another USDA grant, because we can't ask for more than $250,000. And then if we do, then we increase it by $100,000 because we got to apply the BUBBA adjustments. We already have our hands tied with the what is it, $10 million USDA grant. They basically own us for 40 years. Maybe we need to look to downsizing our project. I know that Hollister has given us a maximum amount of sewage that we can send them at 800 gallons per minute, which is 7 times more than what we're producing right now. We're only producing 160,000 gallons a day, which is 111 gallons per minute. Do we need that much capacity? Why and where is San Juan gonna generate that much sewage? I understand that we need increased discharge capacity, but do we need 7 times more? Is San Juan gonna grow 7 times more? Is San Juan ready for that? Are we ready for that? And the other issue with our project too is in decommissioning the wastewater plant. If we have a problem with our wastewater not meeting Hollister's standard, how are we going to correct that without a wastewater plant? We'll have to store it. We have a capacity of over 5 million gallons of storage, I believe I read somewhere. But again, how are we going to correct that? If it doesn't meet standards, we're stuck with it. What are we going to do with it? So we need to look at cost-cutting measures, some real serious ones, and we got to do it fast because this keeps on dragging on.
Thank you for
And
your time.
the longer we drag on, the more it costs us.
Thank you. Do we have anybody responding to those questions?
If I may address it, downsizing the project would mean like it's a 10-inch pipe now. You go to an 8 or a 6. And you'd save maybe 2% on the total project total. Okay, I don't think so, because the price of the pipe is a very small part of the project. The big part of the project is digging it.
Please.
Big part of the
stop addressing
project is digging the
council on
ditch,
this.
and paving back over it, and all the environmental mitigations we have to do. Once again, going to a smaller pipe would not save you very much money. And I think it would cause increased maintenance costs because it'd be much easier to clog. The sewer pipe coming from your house and my house is 2 inches, possibly 3. So you're going to tell me you're going to shrink it down from 10 to what's coming out of my house or something to save a couple $1,000? I don't think that. I know, but we have a disagreement there, because I think the 6-inch pipe is going to cost almost as much as the 10-inch pipe. It's not going to save you that much money.
City Manager Dimitri or Paul, do you have comments?
Paul, would you want to speak to that? As far as cost cutting and we've been working, the reason it's taken this long is because we're looking at under every rock and trying to save every dollar we can, but I'll let the engineer speak to the.
Right, and there were a couple of other points. One was odor. If we prolong the removal of the sludge. The other is the 800 gallons per minute, and the third was decommissioning the plant.
Thank you. We definitely can address those concerns. Those are, I appreciate the commenters' concerns. We can bring those forward with the engineer's report on our next meeting, if that's available. We can give a general response here. In terms of smell, the drying out process that takes place is as Don as city manager has mentioned, is a process that may save some funds here and would be valuable for the city. In terms of smell, that has not been a dramatic change in the drying out. We can have the engineer provide a little bit more detail, but I don't see that as a huge item. In terms of looking to downsize the project and the savings involved, we've been working diligently with the design engineer on that very specific request for the last 6 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. We've really scratched and clawed at every possible cost, and that is what this part of this deferment list that you see before you is that we've gotten it boiled down to these items could be deferred as the best interest of the city to defer them, since we were recommending moving ahead with the project rather than delay it. We have a bid. It looks like a reasonable bid. And we know that this contractor has prices that he's made. And if he has to hold them for a certain period of time longer than he planned, he will have to charge us more money because his costs are going up. And so that's why we're before the city council with these ideas about cost savings. So in terms of decommissioning the wastewater plant and what happens if the water doesn't meet the standard, the city is required to provide the water quality to Hollister. If they don't, there is a process and there's a procedure outlined in the agreement that they have to comply with. It's a matter of water quality standards, and the city would proactively address that issue. We don't see that as an issue. Our design engineer has evaluated those conditions and has indicated that that's not a concern for this. It will be monitored, but it's not projected to happen. So I hope that answers the questions, and please let me know if I need to add.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. What? Go ahead.
Here thinking about, just thinking about the last comment by Mr. Ponce about downsizing and the size of the pipe, and also the gallons per minute that is 7 times what we're emitting now. I was under the impression that with the meeting with Hollister, that the gallons per minute were actually reduced. Is that correct, City Manager?
So thank you for asking that question, and I'm happy to address this matter. Later in the agenda is a revision to the wastewater agreement that the council approved in May 16. And when the Hollister City Council addressed that matter, they saw a 40-year term And we're at 160,000 gallons per day now. And the limit, the cap that they chose to put on it was our maximum. And it's beyond the 2035 general plan. It's 40 years. Plus, this agreement can be extended for 4 more 10-year terms. So Hollister City Council wanted to put some form of cap on there. And so it comes out to 0.43 million gallons, and we're at 160 now. So from 160 to 430. So that's the way that math works, but it's intended to be a cap, like worst case scenario. And part of the reason of having the ponds, the sludge removed and left for capacity is at any given time, if we go over our threshold, we have a couple million gallons of storage, and we can sit on it for a day or a week and then send it when the flows come down. That's especially important. And William Villa, the Director of Public Works, made this point to the Hollister City Council, because we have we have stormwater that will infiltrate into our system. And so sometimes our flows are higher than anticipated because of the intrusion of the stormwater. So once the stormwater passes, we've stored that water and we can send it on. So that's the intent of the system and some of the safeguards that are built into it. And that's where Hollister and some of the public at the Hollister meeting were also afraid that it was going to be too high. But that's actually to protect us, so that we don't hit our limits. Because if we hit a limit and we're not allowed to send anymore, then we are definitely in a bind. But that's projected to be 35, 40 years down the road from now. So it's a projection that may have to be revisited. Agreements get amended and revisited. So who knows in 20 years how many parts of this agreement will still be intact.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to presentations. Fire District Feasibility Study. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, Dimitri. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for all those who were in attendance for this last discussion item.
Thank you.
Chief Martin Del Campo.
Mayor, council members, hope all is well. Bob Martin Del Campo, Hollister Fire. Quick update. Yesterday we got feedback we got the fire consultants to sign the contract. It goes up in front of the board of supervisors on Tuesday. Just an informational as I'm giving you guys right now. So the consultants are AP Triton, and they're going to be doing the feasibility study on what it takes to create a fire district. And their timeline is anywhere between 6 to 9 months. And that's all I have to report out from fire.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from the public? Nothing. Thank you. Councilmember Friels? Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez?
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Stay safe. Thanks for all your work.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thanks, you as well. Informational items and reports from city council representatives to regional organizations and committees. Councilmember Friels.
Okay, I just have one from the Council of Governments, COG. One of the big issues we had last month was Caltrans made a $12 million mistake on the Highway 156 project. Geotechnic studies, they didn't realize that it was a river valley and that there was water in the in the valley. So they had to do they had to bring in it was close to 10, I think it was $10 million worth of lime, and then do the compaction and the whole works with all the with the existing company. The crappy part is San Benito County was on the hook for about $5 million of that. And apparently there was some type of MOU that was agreed upon, a memorandum of understanding that was agreed upon, that we would pay a certain amount of cost overruns
Thank you.
Got it. I got it. Okay. I voted no. I didn't agree that the county had to pay for a Caltrans mistake. And it's a state highway. If the COG would have voted it down, they would have stopped the project. My comment was to the representative from Caltrans. I have absolutely no problem with that because most of us from San Juan didn't want it to begin with. So I voted no, very loudly. But it did pass, and now the county's on the hook for just under $5 million, which is a lot of money for a county this size. And that's all I got. I wasn't very happy that meeting. So
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for the no vote also. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Integrated Waste Management did not meet. We will meet in September. AMBAG is also off, dark as they say, for the month of July. We didn't meet. So the only meeting I attended was Uplift Central California surf meeting, which has to do with SEDS and economic development and stuff. That took place at the San Benito Health Foundation last week. There was people there from Santa Barbara, SLO, and of course the Tri-County area. Most of it was facilitated by Monterey Bay Economic Partnership. And for us to get any economic development money, we have to play in this game. So it's important. And the meeting was mostly informational. There's no decision making or anything like that. So that's at least my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Hi, same story. The first, I got added to a committee, and I think is it the one that I think Councilman Friel's intergovernmental. So I was ready to go on the first Wednesday of the month, and yeah, they canceled. So I guess this time of the year, it's July, they're working on fiscal budget. So ready to go, but the meeting was canceled. I did, however, go to a regional, I think Councilman Freeman might know this organization. It's MBAP, I think, Monterey Business.
Economic Partnership.
Right. They had a big housing seminar or conference at Cal State Monterey Bay a few weeks ago. I was the only representative from the county. It could have been the time of the meeting, I don't know. And they were discussing how to promote a bigger stock of housing, affordable housing in our region. The people on the panel were from industry, some elected officials from other cities, staff from that group. And basically they're really pro housing, trying to promote working with your councils, your elected officials to loosen up permitting and just building more houses. It was interesting. I didn't agree with the one size fits all, but I thought I could take something home from it. The other thing I did, I was invited to attend part of the behavioral health department in the county has a center called the Esperanza Center. And they also house there the local support group for the LGBTQ plus youth, young adults. And they invited me to attend, and I believe the mayor and we had Roland Resendez, councilman from Hollister. We were the electeds that were invited. And so I went to their board meeting. It was very, very informative. My hope is that we can get them to come to our town and do a little bit of outreach with our 2 new housing developments and influx of people from out of the area. We might have young people that may need the service. And so they're looking forward to coming into town and setting up a table. They call it tabling, where they have brochures and information just to be present for people that might need their services. I also invited them perhaps to come at a future city council meeting and present their services as well. And that's what I did. It was very well attended by a group. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia?
I don't think I missed anything from LAFCO, and I don't think there has been a meeting. They were trying to send us to, I want to call it a conference, but nothing to report there.
Thank you. All my committee meetings were dark as well. July is a big month for all committee meetings to go dark. Except for COG, where thank you very much. Oh. Thank you for your service and your no vote. Thank you all very much. Treasurer's report and monthly financial statements. Hi, welcome, Michelle. Can you please unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry. Good evening. Sorry about
Thank you,
that. I was
welcome.
having a brief conversation with myself. My apologies. Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'll start over. I'm going to give you a brief overview of the financials for the month of May. So we'll start with the general fund. Year to date, our net effect is currently a positive balance of $788K. The month over month increase there was an increase of $3K. It was a smaller increase than usual for the month of May. We had 3 payroll cycles versus 2 versus our normal 2. So that's what's driving the smaller increase. On the expenditure side, some of the items that stood out for the vendors were M&S Engineers. So we had a previous engineering company. Now we're moving over to M&S. So this is our civil engineers fees for the month. And then that stood out. And then Stanton Consulting Services, which is our consultants that are managing the wastewater master plan that's based on usage. And then Citygate Associates, which is the strategic consultants that we utilize for the organizational study. And then for the Water Enterprise Fund, year to date, our net effect is currently a positive balance of $456K. The month over month change there was an increase of $55K. Revenues are in line with budget at 93% year to date. We are almost through the end of the fiscal year, which is why we're seeing that change there. As for the expenditure side, they're in line with expectations, so nothing out of the ordinary there. For the Sewer Enterprise Fund, year to date, our net effect, net positive balance, sorry about that, is $519K. The month over month change there was an increase of $33K. The revenues are in line with what we're expecting, and they're exceeding our budget that we had forecasted initially. So that's a good thing. On the expenditure side, we had no material callouts that are worthwhile mentioning. But that's the overview I have for now. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom?
No hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Chambers?
No speaker cards received.
Thank you, Councilmember Friels. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Morris Lopez.
I just want to say thank you. I did have questions that I consulted earlier with City Manager, Mr. Reynolds, and he answered my questions. So none further. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
Nothing.
Thank you. I have nothing either. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you so
Michelle.
much. Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me pull up a few slides. Oops. Not exactly like that. There we go. Okay. All right. 7B, 7A, we are going to continue the conversation on fireworks. We usually do a debriefing after 4th of July. So just wanted to touch base on that. So that's ready to go when the council's ready and has time to hear it. I will be on vacation next week, and I almost forgot to let people know that. So I put that on my first slide so I wouldn't forget. Our family will be camping locally here in Felton, so I'll be easy to find, and the assistant city manager will be acting city manager while I'm gone. We do have the chief and Charlie Badeo on board. Is there anything else you wanted to add as a fire update? Charlie or Chief Del Campo?
Yeah, hi, this is Charlie. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me on here. I'll give a quick update on the just the calls from June 17th to July 17th. We ran one fire, which was a vehicle fire at the county line on Salinas Road. 17 medical emergency medical incidents, 10 vehicle accidents, and inspections. We ran 48 because we did our annual downtown inspections. And we'll be continuing on later on with our schools and hotels, and the weed abatement is also continuing on. So we're hitting up, and I'm working with Rich on getting some compliance orders out there for projects that aren't getting out there, and we're sending our other one, and then we'll go from there. In addition, we have our swearing in on Friday, July 28th for the 5 new probationary firefighters. So you're all invited to come to Fire Station 1 to the Bay at 3 p.m. to witness the swearing in of our 5 new probationary firefighters that are working online. So we're real excited and real happy for these 5 young men that have started with us. And that's all I have.
Thank you. That was the 28th.
Yeah, Friday the 28th
At time.
at 3 p.m. Hollister Fire Station 1 at
Thank you.
110 5th Street.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom?
Seeing no hands raised, Madam Mayor,
Thank you. Chambers?
and no speaker cards
Thank
received.
you. Councilmember Friels, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. Councilmember Morris Lopez,
No, thank you.
Councilmember Sabathia.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Okay,
Thank you.
continue
Have a good
on. Oh, thank you, Charlie. All right, great. Sorry. The sheriff was invited tonight, and I was hoping to see Lieutenant Urena. So I have a few quick notes. Sergeant Penny has been very responsive to the city's needs, stepped up with and joined our team with the fireworks enforcement, and Deputy Villanueva is a great representative for our city. He stops by at least once a week and chats with me, and I know he's been very proactive. I can send him a complaint in the community, whether it's a serious complaint or a minor complaint, and he's very thorough and always follows through. So I'm much happier with the performance of the sheriff under the supervision of Sergeant Penny. So wanted to thank them and commend them for making those changes and stepping up. I talked with now 3 security camera vendors, and yesterday we received a proposal from the 3rd one, and I'm ready to put that together for August consideration. I know the council hasn't directly spoken, this council hasn't spoken about security cameras, and that was a priority from our public safety committee, and we have funds budgeted for that. So we'll bring that back into discussion for the whole council to consider. But we have pricing now as well. Recreation and library programs, the rec tech position was advertised for 6 weeks with no reply. So Liz and I have been working to up our recruitment efforts. Just a quick look, and of course in Santa Clara County, they pay a lot more than we are offering, but not a whole lot more. We may have to look at the salary. And it's also the middle of the summer, so most rec coordinators are fully employed during the summer months. Keep that in mind. And Liz and I worked for the city to join 2 recreation associations, and we're advertising on their websites now as part of the benefit of being members of those associations. So we're re-advertising without a salary based on qualifications, BOQ, and we don't want to start any new programs before the rec position is filled. Thank you very much for awarding the contract for the community hall acoustics. So that was a huge accomplishment that we did with our consent calendar tonight. That is Carl Bajarki, our project manager. That's his last project for the city. He's retiring. So I wanted to thank Carl for all of his hard work on that, because he worked really close with contractors to make sure we got a competitive bid. And I think we have a good bid that's under budget. So I look forward to beginning the community hall acoustics upgrade soon. The Credo Studios Beat Camp was held in June. We had the summary discovery camp, does not appear to be moving forward. I think we got confirmation on that today. Been working with the library staff. They confirmed that for us. And they're starting an exciting program called Art in the Park on the third Saturday of July, August, and September. And it'll be a festival there at Luck Park celebrating arts. And it's a really cool program. And I hope you've had a chance to visit their Facebook page to learn more about that. So this is some of the details. The Arts in the Park is July 22nd, August 19th, and September 23rd. It's an outdoor open studio showcasing the materials and techniques of community artists from major disciplines of visual arts, dance, theater, and music. And a lot of the program audience is targeted as local, our San Juan Bautista adults, youth, and kids and seniors. And the objective is community building. So it's a great use of our Luck Park and library combined together. And I have to commend Estrella, our new hire there. She's focused on programs and delivering great things for us. So I just wanted to recognize the library staff, and they're working together to bring good things to our city. With that, I did attend the San Juan Bautista Senior Organizing Committee. I believe the mayor was there. The listening session was really well attended. We learned that Jóvenes de Antonio is going to be reopening for senior lunches. I believe it was this week in July. So that's really exciting. Partnering with the San Juan Service Club to have a dedicated site for seniors. And they have the Services Club's full commitment. They were at that meeting to present. And Mary Edge is coordinating that, former council member and mayor, and she referred to something called the Village Movement California, and it's an exciting program. And so I have the link here in the slide presentation if anyone's interested in it. And a quick summary, it's Village Movement California is a coalition of grassroots community organizations called Villages. And together with their partners, they seek to revolutionize the experiences of aging. So this is really important as the population in our community and in the state all are aging out. Lots of folks over 60 these days in our community, including your city manager. The city, we're still working on the RFP for landscaping services. It's been drafted, and we've shared it with the CFDs, the Copperleaf and Rancho Vista. We're also working on an RFP. We got a $10,000 award from our risk management firm to do a ADA accessibility study to look at prioritized buildings and sidewalks and areas in our community where we have barriers to accessibility, no handicap ramps, other examples. And if we have the study prepared, then we can prioritize and start to fund this in our CIP. The RFP for legal services is due back this Friday. We've had a few inquiries, so I'm excited that we're catching some attention of different legal firms in the neighborhood. And tonight we'll be setting up a city council ad hoc committee to help go through those proposals. Hopefully we have a good selection to choose from. On the wastewater side, we attended the Hollister City Council meeting June 20th, and they approved the city's agreement with a 4-to-1 vote. And that minor amendment is before the council tonight. We've already discussed it to some extent. The contract award and budget is on this agenda with contingencies. We had a great discussion on the budget, so I wanted to thank the council for that. And yes, the USDA has to approve it before we can award. So we're ready to do that this week and bring the award for the contract back to the council soon. Environmental mitigation credits is another requirement. We have to be prepared to mitigate our environmental impact. That's another matter on the agenda later today, but that's another condition from the USDA towards our wastewater contract award. And on the water update, I have a meeting scheduled Thursday. It's the second meeting with the new general manager. We have approved a proposal for HDR to update their study. That was June 26th. We have a 3-month schedule, and that's a proposal from HDR to update their design for the new routes that they've chosen to use the relinquished 156. So that will allow us to reevaluate the budget and the environmental impacts. And we've initiated conversations with Caltrans already on 2 encroachment permits crossing 156, because Caltrans will still own the 156 while we're working on that pipe. The Union Road and Mission Vineyard Road, the crossings are going to be 2 separate agreements. So I'm meeting with Steve Witry Thursday to talk about implementing that. And just so the community is aware, This is the route that's now preferred, coming from the West Hills treatment plant along the old 156 and then into our well 6. This is instead of crossing these private properties along the foothills, which was the original design, and we were unable to get cooperation from a number of these property owners. So this is our preferred measure, and we're moving forward. We're committed again. So I'm glad to report tonight that project is once again moving forward. Real quick, the City Gate report is drafted. I read it over the weekend while traveling. It's a big report. It's like 80 pages. So there's a lot of good information in there. I know the council's seen a lot of it before, but it's good to read it all in one place. The Sphere of Influence Committee has been restarted. It's underway. They met twice. We're meeting on the 25th of July. They're doing a tour of the unincorporated areas surrounding the city as part of that meeting. And so we've reviewed base maps, maps that describe floodplains and seismic areas, fire areas, all the different base maps that create natural barriers to growth, and Mother Nature's way of controlling growth in our city. Touring the cities, okay, said that. Looking at other green belt agreements with cities, Sonoma and Ventura and others, to see how we would partner with San Benito County and support a green belt surrounding our sphere of influence. A lot of great work and feedback has been coming through from economic development. We sent 3 or 4 members of our EDCAC to attend training in Los Angeles. They all came back very enthusiastic with great ideas. So we're going to be talking about those at the next EDCAC meeting, and we have reports from each of them to share with the community. There's a public meeting tomorrow on the 19th, I'm sorry, and then we'll be looking into state-sponsored programs as well, inclusive innovation hubs and CA small business advocates. So there's a lot to consider with economic development, and economic development is organic. It's something that takes a while. You got to water the seed and grow the plant, and you got to create what they call a fertile environment for economic growth. And so that's especially important to us in the context of our historic preservation and small city culture. The AMBAG had training last week on what they call REAP 2, Regional Early Action Planning Grants, Phase 2. There are 2 types of them. There's regional and local grants. The local grant is easy for the city to apply for, and it fits well with the Multimodal Center project. The Multimodal Center is the $300,000 grant that we applied for from Caltrans. We're supposed to hear about the multimodal project in August. So I look forward to those things coming together. We have a draft land use zoning ordinance presented to the Planning Commission concerning pop-ups. That needs to come forward to the council. It has to do with formalizing what we're doing under a temporary use permit now. The pop-ups are, for example, if a restaurant wants to use its back patio for selling retail products, tie-dye t-shirts or something like that, then they're allowed to have pop-ups under certain conditions. And so the Planning Commission did a good job of reviewing the proposed ordinance, and soon it'll be coming forward to the City Council. The housing element is real important. It needs to be adopted by the end of this calendar year. The kickoff meeting with the Planning Commission was held on June 29th, and there's a joint Planning Commission meeting scheduled for August 29th with the City Council and Planning Commission for August 29th, and then we'll be able to put a draft housing element together in time for the deadline. Real quick, we touched bases on a lot of this stuff already. The solid waste, San Benito County Integrated Waste Management, we did experience a rate increase July 1st of 5%. The new intern was here tonight. We got to meet her. That was great. We did invite the Integrated Waste Management to talk about the landfill, but the consultant was unavailable. The council had asked that come forward in a presentation. So we'll try and schedule that as a letter on a later date, and we'll talk with Integrated Waste about that. And then the Green Business Awards are tomorrow, July 19th at 5:30 at the Veterans Memorial Building. We have 3 new businesses, which makes 11 total. To sign up as green businesses in our city. So that's a big percentage of our businesses. So that program's doing really well for us. And that's it on the city manager's report. I'm happy to answer questions or go back over any slides.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from the public?
No hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Chambers? Thank you. Councilmember Friels? Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Yes, I have a comment or two. I too would like to thank Carl Bajorki for his work. He actually helped get us started on the water project when Don first brought him on. He's not a PE, and so, but he was very experienced in running public works departments in Morgan Hill. And so he was a big help, and we can see his hard work paying off in the community acoustic renovation, which is a project that was first proposed way back in probably 2008 and 2009 by various people. The Strategic Planning Committee in 2015 pushed it really hard. I pushed it hard throughout my career on the city council, and it's finally getting done. So feeling good about that.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
The only question I had was that the sphere of influence and UGB meetings are still open to the public, correct?
Correct, and we're gonna even make them more formal and make use of the dais and make sure they're recorded, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, they're still public.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of comments. Our library staff, Australia and Rochelle, are doing amazing things with programming these days. We appreciate everything that you're doing. And some of it is in support of the seniors program. Much appreciated. And the multimodal project grant application, that's for a study, correct?
Right, but it should result in a lot more detail as far as location and design and scale and what's the right fit for our community and the right look. And I had an interesting proposal today from a community member about buying the soccer field so we could have full control over that. And then I reminded them that they're still waiting to hear from the state about their school. But in all good time, it's an exciting conversation.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yay for the total of 11 green businesses and the 3 additional to make it 11 for becoming green. That's incredible, awesome, and amazing. They are making it easier for merchants to become green. So get in touch with integrated waste management to see how that can happen. I have nothing else. Thank you very much for the presentation. We had fire update, we had sheriff update. 9 action items. Designate League of California Cities voting delegate. City manager.
So we received a letter from the League of California Cities asking the city to appoint a delegate and an alternate to their annual League of California Cities annual conference, which is scheduled for September 20th through the 22nd. Every year, the League of California Cities convenes a member-driven General Assembly of the Cal Cities Annual Conference and Expo. The General Assembly is an important opportunity where city officials can directly participate in the development of Cal Cities policy. So one of the requirements to be appointed is to attend the annual conference. And just staff is recommending that the city appoint a alternate and appoint a delegate and an alternate to vote on city on voting on resolutions and Cal City policies.
Thank you. Do we have a count of who is going to the League of Cities conference September 20th to the 22nd? Show of hands.
I haven't registered, but I am intending to go.
Okay, Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
If no one else goes on.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, then I'd like to nominate Councilmember Morris Lopez as the voting delegate. And I will possibly be presenting as well, but if you want to be the alternate, that's fine. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Is everybody okay with that? Yep. Okay, thank you. The voting member will be Council Member Morris Lopez and the alternate will be Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Okay.
Thank you. And then we'll get a count of who else will be or might want to attend that.
And if you could please let me know as soon as you know, so I can register, get the hotel and get everything that we need for your stay.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I'm guessing.
Did you want a motion to approve the resolution?
I'm guessing that's registration has opened already. Early bird.
Correct, it has.
Okay.
We have until August, towards mid-August for early bird.
Okay.
So we still have time, but the earlier the better, of
Okay.
course.
Great. If everybody can check their calendars and let our city clerk know by next week, that'd be awesome. Or no later than the early bird deadline in August. Thank you.
Action item shouldn't be.
Yeah, I was just gonna work on that.
Okay.
I was just about to say that.
Checking.
I just finished council member comments. Can I have a motion to appoint Councilmember Morris Lopez as the voting delegate and Mayor Pro Tem as the alternate?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilmember Sabathia, seconded by Councilmember Friels. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Friels,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. We are we are postponing B. C, approve the amended agreement with the city of Hollister for domestic wastewater treatment and disposal. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Jordan. I just have one slide on this matter. And we'll get down to it here. Just in summary, this agreement was approved May 16th. And considered by the city of Hollister on June 20th. And due to the length of the term of 40 years plus possible further extensions, Hollister asked for a cap of flow equal to the 40-year growth projection. So we consulted with Tony Akel, the engineer who put together our wastewater master plan, and shared the thoughts with Hollister. And he agreed to the 0.43 million gallons per day. And that was the cap that Hollister requested be added to the agreement. So it's a matter of adding one sentence to the quantity of water we send them with the maximum over the 40-year period. We're sending again 0.16 now. And so in 40 years, we would be topping out at 0.43. And that's it. That's it for the agreement. It's just a one change.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from public?
I have a speaker card in chambers.
Thank you. Please, is that for Michael Ponce?
Yes.
Thank you. Come on up. Come on down. Thank you.
Thank you. So I do this right. So the new agreement talks about 430,000 gallons max, which is 3 times what we have now. Again, thinking about cost saving. Right now, we're talking about a 10-inch pipe, roughly 12 miles. That's 63,360 feet. If we go to an 8-inch pipe, save $25 a foot. my limited math skills, that comes out to $1.5 million savings. The volume, again, my limited volume skills, 8-inch pipe can hold is 165,000 gallons. That's what we use a day. To push that through, I don't think we'll have any problem doing that with an 8-inch pipe. So just by downsizing 2 inches, I think we can save $1.5 million, which is real close to what we need to save already. Another question I have is, since we are looking to come up with more money, are we going to use any general fund money for this project? And the resolution that was passed on May 16th, resolution 2023-35, was that a blank check for this project? And again, getting back to the deferring of the sludge, I really didn't get an answer last time. Will that, by leaving that sludge in the sewer, will that affect our emergency storage capacity? Which is why we will have an empty old sewer plant, is for emergency purposes. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Hey, I'm glad for an opportunity to just say something quickly. I'm Doug Pike, city engineer. And just wanted to add to the discussion, something that's important to be said since it came up again.
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Yeah, it's related to the wastewater. And looking at the price reductions, we looked at many things that weren't discussed and made many adjustments that weren't discussed just for the interest of time. We've had a committee of 6, mostly engineers, that have gone through with the contractor looking for opportunities. What we're looking for is opportunities that would not require a redesign and a rebid, because that would be a minimum 1-year delay. And if prices escalate even 5%, that's an extra $1 million. And then just so you know, the low bidder, if you looked at the bid results, was $4 million underneath the grouping of the other 3. And we had to interview and discern whether that was a responsive bid, because it was a one-off bid, much lower. And it's a reputable contractor, specialty that those of us in the professional community and public works has had a lot of experience with, and they are in fact capable and competent, and their bid process seems sound. And so we're taking advantage of that. Very high possibility if we had to rebid, and we would if we redesigned. Changing a pipe size would require a redesign. It would require everything changing, including the pumping on one end, the pigging station spacing and sizing, and that's the way you clean those lines when they plug, and then the receiving end. So everything changes. That'd be at least a year delay. So the concept is good. But also the design of the project was established with a basis of design document in 2020. And so the sizing and the need for the sizing and the capacity and the projections for the future were all set at that time. And really you're backing up 3 years and revisiting a design criteria that was hammered out by a review process, including the environmental process. We would have to go through the environmental process again. So the concepts that have been presented for change or pipe downsizing make sense if we didn't have those factors. So I was just going to mention that what was presented is we found a way to close the gap that doesn't require a rebid. And that just wanted to give that further explanation. Thank you.
Thank you for the explanation. Questions, comments, concerns from the council? Councilmember Friels?
No, it makes sense. The size of the pipe, for somebody who's pumped water for a long time, it's a lot less friction loss. and I can, lack of, how do I put this? 8-inch could be a standard pipe because it could, I don't know what the difference in price is. Yeah, I trust that this is going to take us into the future for quite some time. And as Dawn pointed out with we were talking about with the urban growth boundary, this town is protected by Mother Nature for the most part, between flood zones, cattle ranches, and now what they're calling wildfire severity zones. So it's going to be very difficult for this town to grow extensively to what we're going to be putting out, I believe. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
I basically echo what Scott just said. I'd just like to add that inflation is our real enemy here, and thank you for letting us know that the inflation costs would more than not make up, but exceed the amount of money we saved by shrinking down to a pipe. And so we've waited long enough. If we were really a big city and really slick, we could have had this done a couple of years ago, because we'd have a big staff and everything. We have our own engineer on salary, but that's not us, so things take a little longer, but we can't take any longer. We just got to move, or everything will be priced out of our reach. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes, I want to say thank you to Mr. Ponce for being diligent in doing his research and coming tonight and speaking to that, because for me, I also have the frame of mind of, make it a smaller pipe. But then hearing the gentleman, the engineer, speak about how it affects other things of the plan, and I'm not an engineer, but I see both your passion about why do we need this much, and we could save costs on that. I see that, and I appreciate you doing your homework. I'm new at this. Everything affects everything. So larger pipe affects the project. Smaller pipe also affects the project, which then have to go back to the design board and do something different again, which delays it. So I appreciate, like I said, your comment, Mr. Ponce, and the explanation and the time. But my concern is just opening the floodgates for massive development. I'm glad that they amended the amount of gallons per minute that they would allow us. Somebody had either a mathematical error or a desire for us to double in size. But there's a paragraph here, and I'm going to take a minute to just read it, or 30 seconds. And it states the background and discussion to kind of, people on the audience, and for my peace of mind and Mr. Ponce's and whoever else looks at it this way. The pros changed, adding a cap of 0.343 MGPs D is almost 2.5 times greater than the wastewater process today. And that's inferring San Juan Bautista, implying it can serve a city with a population of 5,600. We're only 2,000, by the way, according to our census of 2020. The current general plan, that's ours, or likelihood of future general plans will not permit the city, I'm going to repeat that, to grow at this rate in the next 40 years, which is the length of this project or proposal. That's almost 100 persons per year. So, that's reassuring to me that we are looking at the project in terms of that with the design and the pipe. But thank you everyone for the hard work.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
I wanted to jump on council members Morris Lopez's thanks for Mr. Ponce. I really appreciate people digging in. Opinions don't always have to match, but just people sitting around the table all caring about the same thing and throwing different ideas up about how to work something out. I really appreciate that. One thing that is stuck in my mind listening to this, having talked to and made friends out of neighbors, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman being one of them, knowing people who own houses in the older parts of town. One of the biggest complaints, and Mayor and I have talked about this, your household hasn't grown, but that damn 2-inch wastewater pipe in your house is a pain in your butt. And so like and I'm sure Mr. Ponce, you and your family, you know, if you have an old, like, that's a problem, right? And I get trying to save money, but I'm thinking of this as in terms of like, if somebody had that same foresight back then and maybe put in a 4-inch pipe, you know, some of my neighbors and friends wouldn't be having the headaches and pounding pavement and having to call these damn contractors to try to fix these problems as often as they have. I think I appreciate people trying to, you know, make sure things make sense and aren't, you know, grossly overestimated, but having a little bit of foresight to have a bigger pipe, lower frictional forces. If we have to start pumping things with a bigger pipe, the pump forces are lower. You can get a smaller pump, so we can save money on the back end, some of those back pressures and things. Sorry to nerd out in maybe areas that aren't 100% my depth, but a little bit of understanding. So I am in favor of having a larger pipe, much larger than our capacity. And I love, like you were saying, Jackie, there's other ways, like these caps and other things that we can do to mitigate some of the other concerns that we have around growth or cost estimates. But, you know, having a little bit bigger capacity, somehow, some way in 40 years, I have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to, we're going to look back and I'll smile and be like, thank goodness for some reason or another. So that's how I'm looking at this. When you're 98, I'm still going to sneak up on you in my car and honk at you before you can notice I'm coming. And so I'm afraid of the recording process. I mean, the evidence is right in front of us. We can look at the numbers and all these reports. Yeah, it's taken a long time, but planning a big project like this in 2-3 years, you know, that to me speaks to due diligence. But even just in that time and taking our due diligence, we're at 13% cost increase. And so I don't want another 13%, another 10, whatever it is. So that's how I'm looking at this and what will sway my vote, those kinds of facts and discernments.
Thank you for that. And to reiterate, thank you. Michael has been an avid reader of the wastewater and the water project, of which we truly appreciate, and have asked him to be on the water board. Still waiting. Yeah. Yeah, the more input that we have, the more community members that read the packets and have questions, to help all of us make the best decision possible for the community, the better. So we appreciate public comment, good, bad, and indifferent. Thanks for questioning us. I have no other comment for that. Thank you very much for this project. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman and I also attended the meeting of Hollister City Council, which our city manager presented at. And I gotta say, I was a little nervous with how they were reading this. This project that has gone on for 3 years almost didn't go. And I appreciate all of our council members reading the packet, not to say that they don't, but that all of our council members read the packets and pay attention to what's going on and what we really need, and that we weren't asking more of them than we would ask of our own community. So I appreciate all of the work that has gone into this. Thank you very much. May I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the execution to amend the agreement for domestic wastewater treatment and disposal with the city of Hollister?
So moved. Mayor, before we have a second, I just recommend that in operative paragraph 3, that speaks to hereby adopts the resolution and approves the attached amended agreement for domestic wastewater treatment and disposal. And then I would add superseding in its entirety the May 16th version approved by the resolution. So the future city attorney won't look at the May 16th version and wonder what happened to it.
Thank you. Can you please rephrase your motion as amended?
I'd like to move that we approve the present agreement that will supersede the May 16th agreement.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Council Member, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman with, as amended by our City Attorney. Seconded by Council Member Sabathia. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes,
Motion carried.
thank you. Item D, approve the purchase of environmental conservation credits related to the decommissioning of the wastewater treatment plant.
Thank you,
City
Mayor.
Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is an unusual situation that's caused by our unusual action. And it points to the serious nature of the impacts of our development on our environment. Essentially, when we decommission our plant, we will stop discharging our effluent into No Name Creek. And so the obvious question is what happens to the creek? And so we have an unavoidable creek alteration. And so we have applied for and received a stream bed alteration permit approved by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and the State Fish and Game. And part of that is a CEQA document that identified mitigation measures. And so when you have an unavoidable creek alteration such as this, the mitigation measures are extreme. So with the dry creek, we will be threatening the species of red-legged frog and tiger salamander. To put it in simple terms, I won't give you the Latin version because I can't pronounce it. And basically in concept, what we're doing is because we're impacting adversely the habitat of the species in the creek in our city. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife allows for the city or other developer to buy land and conserve it. And so we had talked back in November, those of you on the council talked about Sparling Ranch having a conservation bank that was approved by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And so we did the math working with EMC, our environmental consultant. The two species require that we buy credits equal to 7.8 acres on that ranch, and they cost $60,000 each. And so the total cost that is built into the budget we discussed earlier is $468,000. And that's how we mitigate this environmental impact. And the USDA requires that we be prepared to mitigate all the environmental impacts prior to breaking ground on our project. So that's why this is coming forward now. We had calls from at least two other conservation banks that were being formed, but they hadn't been approved yet. And so I've been in touch with them, and they're just not approved by U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So we waited as long as we could, trying to get a better price, but time ran out. So we have to move now because we're ready to award our contract for construction soon. And so with that, I did send some information out in advance about these programs. There's a good article in Bonito Link back in November and back in 2018 when this was being formed. And so do my best to answer any questions that the council or community may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from the public? Yes.
Am I allowed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome.
I just have a quick comment on this. It just irritates me that we got to spend this amount of money to take care of what is called No Name Creek. Is this an official creek? U.S. Fish and Game are saying that we're in fact destroying a creek. Is this an official creek? We just always called it No Name Creek. This is a ditch. It's a ditch. It's not a creek. Why is the Fish and Game saying that it's an official creek. I can say, I can understand if it was an official creek, then yeah, we're doing something to this creek, so then we have to take care of it. But is this really an official creek? Has anybody asked that? I don't think it's an official creek. All these, I mean, I'm an animal lover, I'm an avid fisherman, I respect wildlife, but the wildlife that is in that creek are visitors. Because there was never a creek before we made a ditch. So why are we having to spend this outrageous amount of money for something that one agency is telling us to stop, and then another agency is telling us, no, you can't stop it. And if you are, you got to pay this outrageous amount of money. It doesn't make no sense to me. But I don't know if anybody, but I would think somebody would, or maybe somebody should ask Fish and Game if this is an official creek. If it's not an official creek, I don't see why we have to do anything about it. It's a ditch. When that sewer plant was made years ago, they dug a ditch for the water to go out. That's just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments.
If I may, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. That's a great point. I had the same question, and my question was, I don't think those frogs, salamanders, whatever else existed in 1985. The ditch didn't exist in 1985. We built the sewer plant. We commissioned it in 87. Started pumping water out of it. That's when the ditch started. So we're basically, so whatever animals are propagating in that, are visitors or whatever, and they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the sewer plant. So it's not like we're harming a natural environment. It's almost an unnatural environment. We made it. It's not nature. We made the sewer plant and we made the ditch that conveys away the water. So if you could ask Fish and Game again, I think it would be worth it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns from? No hand raised on Zoom, Madam Mayor. Thank you. Councilmember Friels.
Mike, I'm glad you stood up there and said exactly what I wanted to say, especially since now we can be fishing buddies again. Because you're leaving at 4:30. I went back and looked at topo maps all the way back to 1900, and there is not a creek there. The creek, this ditch popped up, and I think the earliest one I saw was like 1990 when I saw it. And it's, it runs down to the Nylon Quarry and it cuts across, and then it catches up, eventually connects with San Juan Creek. I don't understand, just like Mike was saying, I don't understand how something, here we avoided over $1 million, almost $1 million in fines because we're putting bad water in the creek. So now we're trying to fix that. We're mitigating it. And then one more government agency comes after us and says, with their hands out, they want almost $500,000, $500,000. It's a hard one to choke down. Without any proof at all that our $468,000 is actually going to help any red-legged frogs or tiger salamanders in the Sparling Ranch. Do we even know if they're up there? Do we even know if there's do we know if there's a habitat up there?
Yes, we do. And U.S. Fish and Wildlife has to certify it. And that's what these other two land banks were waiting for, and they haven't received that. So they're designated for specific habitat. It could be a kit fox, it could be the burrow owl, it could be a salamander or a frog. But
okay,
so they're the eligible candidate. That's why they rose to the. That's why they were selected.
Because they have these two amphibians.
Right. Yes.
Okay. It's a lot of money for amphibians. I understand the red-legged frog has been wiped out. That happened during the gold rush, and we've been trying to bring it back. The tiger salamander, people have heard me talk about salamanders in the past. We used to catch hundreds in this town. I get it. We also used to catch crawfish in that creek. How come crawfish aren't, they're not on here? So I don't know, it just seems it's very selective. And it seems like a quick way for some, a government agency to make a whole ton of money off of us. I mean, that's gonna fix our problem right there. That's just in a nutshell. Not happy with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman? Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Well, I learned something new today, that it's really not a creek, it's a ditch. And yeah, I feel like we're being taken for a ride to $500,000, which could go into mitigating the shortfall. So what is the next step? Are we held to pay for these credits without it being an actual creek? Mr. Ponce and Councilman Freeman and Friels have very valid points. That creek was never there. The said creek, it was because, is it runoff? And yeah, so why are we conforming to this? Is there another way that we can have a last hour talk with these bureaucrats? It's $500,000. We'll just round it up.
Just to be clear, the determination that it was a creek, and Doug perhaps can help me out here, came from the Army Corps of Engineers, and there's a determination that's required when FEMA makes its flood maps, et cetera, to delineate and describe and define U.S. waterways of the United States. And so this is one of those waterways of the United States.
Navigable. You can float a toothpick through it.
So these aren't bureaucrats, these are biologists and scientists, and some of them we paid for to study the issue, and so our own consultants are coming back with this conclusion.
Yeah, I'll just add the perspective of one that's been through this from the old days till now, and things have changed, and it is frustrating. There's an environmental assessment that's done, and then there's jurisdictions determined during that time. Army Corps will take jurisdiction if it meets the criteria of the law. And then Fish and Wildlife will take jurisdiction if it meets the criteria for a stream bed alteration agreement. So there's two kinds of jurisdictions that we have to make it through, that have a threshold. And so that has been determined through the environmental process. And I've seen this happen every place where either the wastewater treatment plant was consolidated regionally, or whether processes were changed where wastewater is treated to be recycled for beneficial reuse and then goes to farmers' fields and not to a creek. And then these credits have to be paid. And it does feel like extortion. It does feel, unless your major is environmental science or something like that, and understand the details and the nuances and why some species aren't addressed and some are. For someone with an engineering background, it seems a little bit arbitrary and capricious, but there is a process, and unfortunately, there's no easy appeal to this. We accept it and we move on. We could labor through a very expensive lawsuit, I guess, but we could talk to them and get satisfaction of a better comprehensive understanding. And I would just go back to the environmental consultant for that, because they give us the same answer as Fish and Wildlife.
Well, and I understood now, you bring back some memories from a year or so ago when I was first studying this, city engineer. We could pay for the stream to be monitored for the species. And I believe if it's found over like 6 monitors over 12 or 2-year period, that the species is not there, then it can be proven and demonstrated that you're not going to impact it. But all that is delayed to our project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Council members, Sabathia?
They're there.
They are there.
Come into my damn yard and hear them all down there.
Don't say that out loud.
This sucks. It's funny money. The only thing I just the question that Councilmember Frios asked, I went to the website, I Googled the Sparling Ranch. The only consolation I can give us is that a large part of that ranch is in San Benito County. So at least sorry, I'm just as frustrated as the rest of you. At least the damn money's not leaving the county. Like,
Yeah.
that's the only consolation I had. That's basically burning a pile of cash.
Yeah, absolutely. I had all of these questions originally. And asked if there were other agencies that did this. When you're dealing with threatened species, if we created a wetland or a waterway, we are responsible for the species that are in there, regardless of whether they're threatened or not. Unfortunately, having threatened species makes it all the worse. I was shocked to find out that we can pay some money somewhere else to take care of some other critters that ours are not getting relocated. So we're taking care of ones that are already out there. This also has to do with again the whole 2-year study and delaying the project, and having this as part of the project also falls under the USDA, whether or not they will give us the money or not, or help subsidize this project. So if we delay it again, we also can lose the funding that we've already received or are receiving. So a lot of mitigating factors in mitigating occur. And unfortunately, this is a $500,000 mitigation that we have to pay for. Not happy with it, just like everybody else. But it's, we can incur a whole lot more fines if we don't do this. Messing around with threatened species is, speaking from experience, not inexpensive. Go ahead.
Obviously, the ditch is going to be dry, and the species are going to die off. The salamander doesn't travel far, so if there's some kind of proof, do we have any assurance that somebody else isn't going to come in here and say, hey, you just killed off 2,500 tiger salamanders and red-legged frogs, and now they're going to find us again? I mean, do we have any assurance to that? That's what scares me, is that one government agency's out there going, hey, we can make it all better for you if you just, give us some money. And then there's always somebody out there. I mean, what is the US Fish and Wildlife going to have our back? Is the EPA going to have our back? This just makes me nervous, because we're going to kill off critters. It's going to happen. I mean, the creeks, well, right, there's water running in the creek right now without the sewer, but that was a weird year.
So do we have an incidental take permit?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, we are covered.
Stream bed alteration from this thing, please.
Don, do you want to do that?
Boy, I wish the biologist was here.
So let me give it, I can give it a wee bit of a go, and you can correct me if or elaborate more. An incidental take permit is if in the process of doing our work, whatever work it is, you have so many in the course of doing that work, you will kill something, and the permit I don't have the word, the permit can do that.
That's going to be the construction site itself. That's going to be the dig. Is it?
Oh, I see what you're saying, for
the creek,
for actually putting it in along the route, the pipe along the route. Go ahead, Mr. Pike.
I'll just share that what this is about is not individual animals, but habitat. And so the Fish and Wildlife stream alteration permit allows us to basically eliminate the habitat. And so it covers everything that goes with the habitat. So it's pretty comprehensive, and they're not going to count numbers or look at individual animals, but And that, by the way, the Environmental Protection Act primarily addresses habitat, only individual animals for specific activities that are temporary in that stream bed. But in this case, we're eliminating, in their mind, the habitat.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Does this mean after this, we don't need permits to clean up all those weeds in that eliminated habitat?
I cannot comment on that at this time.
It's not on the agenda.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Sorry, you had your 3 minutes. He's our contractor.
One sentence.
He's our consultant. Thank you very much. Sorry, Michael. May I have a motion to approve the purchase of environmental conservation credits related to the decommissioning of the wastewater treatment plant?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have
Reluctant second.
I'm sorry, a reluctant second. Thank you very much. A motion was made by Councilmember Sabathia and a reluctant second was by Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Go.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Accept the 2022-23 pavement management program project improvements, which include streets, curb and gutter, sidewalk and ADA compliant ramp, and release all retentions and performance bonds to McKinn Construction.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe Doug or Jerry want to read my slide or? Basically, as you're well aware, we've launched our street repair program last fall. We addressed issues on 11 city streets, sidewalks and curb and gutter. Estimated cost at the time of award was 1.4 million. Using Measure G resources, the state transportation block grant, the COG federal funds, the state SB1 funds and gas tax money. We awarded the contract to McKinn for 136 million. They paid performance bonds and we held it with retention to make sure that the project was completed to the acceptance of our city engineer. And the city engineer has accepted those improvements as expressed in the attached staff report. And the recommendation is to release the performance bonds and retention. We would maintain a warranty period for 1 year and maintain a maintenance bond in place during that time. So with that, happy to answer any questions and Doug and Jerry are here from M&S to help.
Did you have a comment? Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom? That's okay.
Seeing no hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Comments from Councilmember Friels?
No questions, just a comment. Thank you, Don, for the hard work on that project. It's nice to see new asphalt. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman?
Thank you. And I'd like to follow up on what Scott just said. It is really nice to see new asphalt. And I'd like to thank not only City Manager Reynolds, but also the McKim Company. I think they did a very, very good job. I kind of grade people on if they do the traffic control and all that type of stuff, and they did a good job on that, I thought. And then I'd also like to thank M&S Engineering, in particular Jerry, because I know that he was out there bird dogging it and making sure everything was okay or better than okay, and he did a great job on what I call project management. And the city looks a lot better than it used to. It's really a great makeover, I guess is the word. Thank you.
Councilmember Morris Lopez?
Yes, just want to say thank you for the hard work. It does look really nice. I'm really hopeful when the rest of the town streets get repaved. Can't wait.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia?
Thank you. No comments.
Thank you. I also want to thank Jerry Sanguinetti for the interaction with the public. We had a lot of concerns or questions or comments, and he was right there to answer them in person. That sometimes is scary. Thank you. I love the new spit shine on the city, and can't wait for the rest of it to be done. Thanks for putting this project together, and for all that were involved. Sorry about the couple of trees that were damaged in the process. No animals were hurt in the process of this project that we know of at this time. May I have a motion to approve the resolution accepting the 2022-23 pavement management program improvements, which includes streets, curbs, gutters, sidewalk, and ADA compliant ramps, and release all retentions and performance bonds to McKim Construction for and close the project.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Councilmember Sabathia, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez,
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan,
Yes,
motion carried.
thank you. F, appoint a city attorney ad hoc selection committee. City manager.
Mayor, as provided to the city council in the packet is a request for qualifications. That was sent out to 10 or 15 different law firms and advertised 2 weeks ago. The closing date is Friday, the 21st, this coming Friday. So we present the RFQ to the council in case there's a need to amend the process. But the process does entail that the city attorney works for the city council. So the city council needs to be directly involved in the selection of the new city attorney. And that in the request for qualifications, there's reference to establishing an ad hoc committee, temporary 2-person committee of 2 council members, not subject to the Brown Act. And when the appointment comes forward to the city council for award, that committee would disband.
Thank you. Questions, comments, concerns from Zoom or chambers?
No hands raised, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Friels. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
No questions, but thank you, Mr. Routhie, for all your hard work. Appreciate getting to meet you and work with you through the planning commission and now recently with city council.
Well, thank you, council member, and I do appreciate it. I am planning to be here for your August meeting, definitely. So I would not.
We appreciate that.
Not going to go away that quick, but I do thank the council for your. I've really enjoyed working with all of you. When I accepted the job, I really thought I'd be here longer, but things have changed a little bit in my life that I didn't expect a year ago. That's what kind of happens, but I have treasured my time here. I really thank all of you. I'm not ready to say goodbye yet, but thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
I hear you.
I can assure you this will be my last assignment working for a city.
Thank you.
It doesn't get any better than this.
Life changes.
Nice.
Backward 1 week, okay?
Council members,
No comments, but also wanted to offer my thanks.
thank you. We really do appreciate all the work that you have put in for us. There have been some challenging times and we appreciate every minute of them and enjoy your break from this and spending time with family. That usually isn't said like that. Usually it's you're fired. Enjoy spending time with your family. Thank you for all you've done for us. We appreciate you. So we need to appoint 2 council members for the ad hoc committee. Recommendations, Councilmember Friels. Do you have any recommendations to be on this ad hoc committee? Thank you. Sorry. Thought there was something coming after that. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman, recommendations?
If I say somebody's name, they might get mad at me, so I'm not certain, but I would recommend EJ.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez, any recommendations?
I recommend the mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia, recommendations?
I recommend Scott.
Thank you. That's a declining. Thank you. Thank you all. Well, we have two names out there. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'm not against it, and I wasn't throwing your name in there in jest. Thought you'd be a good candidate to sift through some of the minutia of the.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for Councilmember Sabathia and myself?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion to appoint Councilmember Sabathia and Mayor Jordan for the council members for the ad hoc selection committee made by Councilmember Friel, seconded by Councilmember Morris Lopez. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia.
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Historic Resource Board vacancy. Appoint an ad hoc committee to review candidate applications for Planning Commission, Historic Resource Board and make a recommendation to the City Council. How many applications do we have?
Liz, how are we doing
Oh.
with recruitment?
So we just received one application today, this week on Monday. And it's been advertised since June 26th. It's been on our website, but we've only received one application so far.
I've heard from 3 different people. They've never put an application in.
I've heard other people say that they were interested, but I've never received an application. So as soon as I see an application, then we'll put all of them together, but I haven't received any except for one.
I'll be darned. Did we have a deadline on that?
Yes, we do.
Friday.
No, the 28th, July 28th at 5 p.m.
Oh, okay, okay.
for a new flyer that is posted on our website.
July 28th, 5 p.m.
Correct.
For anybody out there who wants to apply to the Planning Commission Historic Resource Board. Thank you for that information. Recommendations, Councilmember Friels.
I don't have a recommendation. Like I said, right now I'm a little strapped and I would love to do it. You don't have the time to be able to do it. I apologize.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Councilmember Freeman,
I would be happy to serve on this committee.
thank you for that. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
I would be happy to co-chair with Councilman or Pro Tem Mayor Freeman.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia.
I don't have a recommendation.
Thank you. Can I have a motion then? Thank you both for volunteering for that. I appreciate it. May I have a motion for, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman and Councilmember Morris Lopez to serve as the ad hoc committee to review candidate applications for Planning Commission, Historic Resources Board, and make a recommendation to the City Council.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilmember Sabathia, seconded by Councilmember Friels. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frios,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia,
Yes.
Mayor Jordan,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you both. Discussion items. Can we take a 5-minute recess, please? Thank you. We'll reconvene at 9:05. Thank you. Please mute us.
Hey, Brian.
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, we're back and we're back. Hi, thank you all for allowing the council a moment. Discussion items. Accept the San Benito County Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, also known as SEDS. Consider Planning Commission additional community and staff recommendations. Thank you very much. Assistant City Manager, Community Development Director Brian Fauch. I'm guessing you're taking the lead on this one.
Yes, I'd like to just share my screen for a minute if you'll enable me to do that. Looks like the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, you should be okay now.
Okay, let's try that. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so before I introduce Marie Jones, who is here as the San Benito County Economic Development Corporation consultant on the SED program, I'd just like to sort of review first a few of the items. As the staff report does include a sort of revision to two initiatives that were included in the initial draft SEDS. Had two initiatives related to clean drinking water, and the one for multimodal transportation center project, which is a planning program that we've applied to Caltrans for funding in this year, which Don was referring to earlier, that we will probably hear about in August. I keep hoping that we'll hear sooner, but I'm pretty sure it will be August. So that particular program needs to be combined with the 3rd Street Master Plan, because that multimodal transportation center plan is intended to be an integrated plan, integrating transportation planning with the 3rd Street Master Plan, with the San Juan School site development planning program, and the state parks, the way that we have applied to Caltrans for funding. In addition, Planning Commission had developed a robust set of recommendations for inclusion in the SEDS. May not be incorporated in the way that people expect, because the SEDS is a project-oriented document this time around. Some of these are programs and will be referenced in the SEDS in different ways. Same thing here with members of the San Juan Bautista community, recommendations regarding SEDS. Many of these were also considerations that the Economic Development Citizens Advisory Committee considered. And by the way, the steering committee for the SEDS program included 2 members of the EDCAC, Stephanie Correa and the mayor. So the EDCAC was well represented in that process. And finally, staff had a short set of recommendations, including reference to the community plan, which is underway, a citywide infrastructure master plan to include infrastructure planning for projects south of 156, implementation of our ATP, which was just completed this past year. And then, as I said before, the 3rd Street Master Plan, Transportation Center Plan, and a historic resources enhancement program, which isn't necessarily a project, but because historic resources are such an integral part of our economic development profile, it's important to have those records in the SEDS one way or another. So with that, I'd like to just simply introduce Marie Jones and stop sharing the staff report and let Marie cover sort of the basics of the SEDS draft and take it away.
Hi, Marie. Welcome and thank you. Please unmute yourself. There you go. Hi.
Thanks so much. I've been listening for 3 hours, just waiting for my moment of fame. But I will try and make it brief because I know you all are probably pretty dang tired. I did pare down the slides from our normal 20 odd to, I think we're down to just 7. So bear with me, it'll be super fast. And I also need to have my participant screen sharing turned on, if you wouldn't mind.
It's ready for you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so what I'm sharing right now is the process and content of what the SEDS includes. And it's kind of a process. So every SEDS is the same in terms of what it's got in it, but every SEDS is different in terms of what it focuses on for the community. So we do have a SWOT analysis. We've done a comprehensive economic analysis of the county, a vision statement. Probably the most important part of the document are the projects that are listed. And then there's also a new thing, which is the resiliency strategy, which is now required in all SEDS to deal with climate change and all of the sort of natural disasters that we all face. Right now, we are in the community review and feedback process, or number 8 on this chain of sequence of events. And as we get great comments like the ones that Brian shared, we do incorporate them straight into the document, because at the end of the day, this is your document to help you get money. And that's our goal, to help you on your path. So what that looks like is EDA is now the funding channel for all of these large funding sources. So the American Rescue Plan, the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure bill. Needless to say, most of these programs have billions of dollars in them, and cities and counties are lining up. And one of the ways they line up is to complete a SEDS. A SEDS is a ticket to play. It doesn't mean you get the money, but you've got to have your project in the SEDS in order to be competitive to apply for the money. So each organization, city, county actually has to go ahead and apply for that money on your own. I just wanted to, we have a big economic analysis. I'm just going to focus on 3 key things that we found. And I'm kind of calling them the myth busters. So there are some misperceptions, I think, in your community about what its strengths and weaknesses are. And one of those is there's this kind of feeling that San Benito County's economy is not particularly strong. But if you look at the chart on the right here, that's gross domestic product growth from 2010 to 2020. And you'll see that San Benito County is actually right in the middle. So it's in the top 30% of counties in the state of California. So that's pretty dang good. It's not Santa Clara good, but maybe you don't want to be as good as Santa Clara. And then this next chart shows employment growth by county. And again, San Benito is in, the top 15% of counties in the state in terms of employment growth. So that's all good news for you. Another sort of misperception we had is that there's a lot of income inequality in San Benito County. And in fact, compared to your neighbors, so this bar chart shows San Benito County with households earning less than 50,000, households earning 100,000 to 50,000, households earning more than 150,000, or between 100 and 150, and then households earning more than 150,000. And what you see is San Benito County actually has a better income distribution than Santa Clara County, Monterey County, or California as a whole, because it has a larger middle class than any of these other areas. And this is also borne out when you look at poverty rates. So San Benito County poverty is only 9.3%, well below that of Monterey County or California as a whole. So props to you guys. Stop whining, you're doing great. And then the next one is we had we heard over and over about how if only San Benito County could keep the high-tech commuters that are going to Silicon Valley in San Benito County, that would reduce commuting and we'd have a lot more high-tech jobs here. Well, that's an interesting theory, but in fact, it's not borne out by the facts. What San Benito County is it's a residential home base for breadwinners in middle income jobs. And those include construction, public education, retail, and public services. So attracting high-tech companies to San Benito County is going to displace these people, not make them not commute. In addition, I'm not really sure that high tech is the right way to go for San Benito County because you have such a strong competitor to your north. You're always going to be competing against them. So that said, what we did to get to this information, because it's not collected, actually, you can't like call up commuters and find out where they're working and what industry they're in. So we looked at the mismatch between jobs. So this first column shows the jobs in San Benito County, and the second column shows the residents, what sectors they're working in San Benito County, and you simply subtract one from the other, and that gives you sort of a proxy to where the out commuting is happening. And again, you'll see that these green lines, that's in construction, retail, trade, some professional and technical services, but not very many, health services, and public education. So I thought that would be interesting to share with you. And again, just part of our little job trying to do some myth busting. So Brian was kind enough to share the information with me that he shared earlier with you. And so I actually already incorporated it into a slide for you. And so one of the key features of the SEDS is teeing up your projects to get funded from EDA. So once EDA approves the SEDS, then all of your community members, whether it's the city, the county, or just nonprofits, can go ahead and apply for funding. And so these are the ones that Brian mentioned: the community plan, specific plan, the infrastructure master plan, the ATP, and the historic resources enhancement program. And then we already had these three projects in the SEDS, number 15, 16, and 17. Obviously wastewater you're undertaking now, but you may decide, I know how these wastewater projects go. They always run over budget. And should you need more money, this would be a great place to get either a very low interest loan, 1%, or you can actually get grant funding as well. Clean drinking water source for the city of San Juan Bautista, your multimodal plan combined with your master plan, and your school site development project. And then what I'm kind of thinking as developing an interrelated tourism attraction projects, which kind of includes all the things that the Planning Commission did discuss. Real quick, I'll look at some of the other county-wide initiatives. So obviously you've all heard about the hospital. Trying to retain that is important. Getting more electric power. There's this problem with the PG&E substation in Hollister that's limiting the ability of commercial enterprise to expand. There's no capacity, so that's a big thing to address. The new college campus is underway, but again, if there's a money shortfall, this would be a place to go to get money. And then the Youth Empowerment Hub, really important to help our youth be successful in our economy and our culture. And so they're actually looking to expand and get a permanent facility. And then these larger development projects, I'm sure you've all heard about, so I won't go into those. Internet access, there's a lot of money out there right now for broadband. The little city that I live in just got a $15 million grant to put broadband in the street everywhere from EDA. So that money is out there. So these are some of those countywide initiatives. And then Hollister has a couple of initiatives of their own. And with that, hopefully I didn't take too much of your valuable time, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments, concerns from the public?
Madam Mayor, no hands raised.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Friels. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Thank you for the great presentation. I was glad to see that you mentioned that maybe we could find some extra money for the wastewater. I'm hoping that we don't have to do that, but we should find that extra money and put it into the drinking water project. So that would be And so I'm glad that we're doing this and that we're moving, so we're at least able to throw our hat in the ring and play the game with the other people or the other cities, jurisdictions. So I'm in favor of this, so we can collect more money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, water is something they're definitely interested in funding. So it's a good category.
Thank you. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes, I had, I actually listened to your report, in Hollister, I think, and then I also listened to it in the Planning Commission. And I was actually the individual that brought up the, need to recognize our local, national theater and also, highlight them and, you know, and also recognize that we have a living American playwright who is in his 80s now. So it really behooves us to capitalize on his talent and what he brings to our little community and actually globally. As I said, he was presented with a couple of medals by presidents and also Mark Twain Award. The other thing is that you said these were actual projects, right? So you're meaning brick and mortar, or you're talking about, define that for me.
Sure. So generally EDA does only fund brick and mortar type of projects. However, they do have a class of money that's available for what are called planning grants or feasibility studies. So that's also a place where you can apply for that kind of money. And that's where, you know, when you're thinking, I did totally hear you on the theater and your playwright. I just don't know how to actualize that into a project or a feasibility conceptual plan study. So if you want to email me or call me with ideas, I would love to hear from you. Marie Jones, I'll give my contact information to Brian and he can pass it on to you.
Because I know that you had discussed at length how, you know, it's tied into, you know, strategy to get more tourism and economic development. So we have resources here. And like I said, I was really surprised that didn't come up in your original proposal. The other thing is we are a destination, because I also heard you and your colleague state that, you know, you want to work on how we can become a destination. Well, I mean, if you know anything about California history, most Californios, we are on the map for that. We're one of the oldest, largest active missions in California. So we are a destination. We have, you know, over the years, decades, social studies students in middle school come here to do their mission project. So, you know, we are on the map as a destination for that. I feel like traveling up down south, when I worked down south, I used to travel. I often see these big, nice signs on Highway 101 South announcing you're approaching San Miguel Mission, you're approaching San Luis Obispo Mission, you know, and they look, you know, the adobe kind of wall. And I've always wondered why we don't have that. And that's an actual brick and mortar, no pun intended, adobe structure. Like, how can we go about getting that? You know, maybe there are some people that don't know that we're here, but I think a lot of people do know. The other thing, it was curious to me that inserted into the synopsis of the plan for our San Juan, specifically Initiative 17, it's addressed about planning on the south side and the north side, and also referencing our SOI, which we are currently have not completed. That is not a brick and mortar project. I understand the theory behind that. There's a potential for grow out and plan, but we are still in the process of working that. So it's almost feels like the cart before the horse. We still have meetings. We're not even done with that. So kind of feel a certain way about putting that into your initiative or your plan when we still have yet to fix that and work it out. And I can tell you, as listening to my constituents and the residents, that there's a lot of hesitancy to really put residences on that south side of 156 and north. So I saw that in the verbiage that includes all of that: industrial, commercial, residential land use, and we're still working that out. And there is some resistance to grow in that way in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sabathia?
I got really excited when I saw the first bullet point. Probably not where you think I'm going with this, but the SWOT analysis. I campaigned on my seat as identifying that we needed some sort of SWOT analysis. It's something that a lot of other communities our size had done as part of a plan. Do you were you just saying that we need to do that, or have you done that SWOT analysis for San Juan?
Yeah, we have completed the SWOT analysis. It's in the report, and it's also in the longer PowerPoint that's in your packet. Brian and I emailed, and he wanted me to make it shorter. And, you know, I could have talked for half an hour, but I think at this point of the night, probably that wouldn't have been welcome. So there is a pretty good comprehensive SWOT analysis in there, and I recommend that you take a look at that.
Awesome. I will do that. I'm excited about that. I had a lot of other thoughts and comments as one who commutes out for a tech job. But but thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You know, you can be the exception that proves the rule, right?
Yes.
I didn't say there were no tech
Yeah,
job commuters.
bring
It's just not, that's what most of it is. Any other comments?
Yeah, thank you very much, Marie. It's been actually a pleasure sitting on these meetings and working with you. Couple of questions. And again, thank you for your patience in this in this hour. There were rankings, and a couple of ours, one of them was ranked 17th. How are those ranked? Is it just random?
No, it's by the metric. So for example, one is gross domestic product. And so that's actually per capita. So it's gross domestic product per capita. And you do it for all the counties and then figure out where, you know, San Benito County is relative to the other counties.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. Yep.
What's the final day for comments?
Oh, good question. You know, I don't know the answer. Well, we started the process June 30th. So the final day will be July 30th.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, end of the month.
Thank you. Is it better to have projects that benefit all three jurisdictions to get funding?
Not at all.
Perfect.
So the funding is really based on how well your project fits the criteria for EDA. And part of that has to do with job generation for some of their funds. For their infrastructure funds, not so much. And no, it's doing cross-jurisdictional things is not at all required.
Okay, thank you. And to expand a little bit on Councilmember Morris Lopez's comments on tourism, the Mission is one of our biggest tourist attractions in San Juan Bautista. They get over 100,000 visitors a year, 40 of which are students. So the other 60,000 are people just coming from all over the world to check out our Mission. The Mission itself is a historic, not only is it an active mission, but it's a historic building as well, or historic site, which is seismically not sound. How do we get that project as a historic property, not as a part of the Monterey Diocese?
Yeah, so good question. I think you can make a case for getting funding for that project based on the fact that it is a tourism driver and there's a certain number of people who are employed on site. So I think this number 18, develop interrelated tourist attractions, and forgive me, I did not need to imply that you are not good at being a tourist attraction. I actually really loved my time in San Juan Bautista. I had the best breakfast at Gigi's. It was just totally scrumptious. So I didn't mean to imply that at all if I did, but I think we want to add that mission you know, we have historic resources, but we want to add the mission to that as well.
That would be awesome. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
No problem. Good point. You know, that's why we do this public process, because, you know, 2 out-of-towners, God bless us, but we can't identify everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's been a great process, and I'm thrilled that it came to the planning commission, to the councils, to the board of supervisors, to reach as many folks as we possibly can. I know that the meetings themselves are quite full. But again, being a member of the community at the time, we don't think of everything. So it's really nice to see this come full circle to everybody. So I appreciate all the work that's going into it. And if we can add the mission, that'd be totally awesome. Any further comments on this? One more
Sorry, I just thought about something.
into the microphone. please.
Yes, you know, also along with the mission, but the surrounding area, we do have local indigenous tribes that are organized, and they've been struggling to get recognized as part of our history. And I know it's not brick and mortar, but I don't know how we could work it into like the arts and culture, past or history. The Amamutsan tribe, and I don't know if anyone else knows other indigenous tribe, but that's one of the tribes that's been struggling to be recognized and honored here in our past. And they're very much a group, you know, that we can work with.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And Mendocino County is also home to many tribes, many that are recognized and a few that are not. And there's quite a bit of money out there from EDA specifically to help tribes. So getting recognition is important for them to be able to access those funds. I will talk with Steve about figuring out a way to incorporate that concept into this SEDS if we can do it. I don't know off the top of my head what it would look
Right.
like, but
Yeah, I just thought I'd put that out because we're looking at what our natural history and resources are.
mhm.
And, you know, we have individuals, we have people present and past that collectively really, you know, make us a special place.
Yep.
Thank you.
100% agree. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for adding the arts and the tribal bands and that, the indigenous. Marie, thank you again for that. Brian, thanks for bringing Marie in. Looking forward to seeing the final document. Okay, your job here is done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night. I don't know how to sign somebody off. See you later. Bye. Our next regular scheduled meeting is Tuesday, August 15th. We do have a special meeting coming up. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Councilmember Frios.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman. Councilmember Morris Lopez.
Yes.
Councilmember Sabathia.
Yes.
Mayor Jordan.
Yes. It is 9:34. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all for asking for it to be a short meeting. Yeah, thank you to whoever did that.